Money laundering is older than your grandma's secret cookie recipe. Forget drug cartels and shady billionaires. Ancient merchants were already scrubbing their dirty silver long before offshore accounts were a thing. You think hiding your crypto in some sketchy wallet makes you slick? Try doing it in 2nd century China while dodging the emperor's tax collectors. That's OG criminal finance. Because here's the truth. Every empire, from Rome to the British, had its own version of wash, rinse, repeat, but for gold. They all had one goal: make dirty money look clean and keep the authorities too confused or too corrupt to care. And yeah, spoiler alert, the world hasn't changed one damn bit. The suits laundering money through shell companies today are just the spiritual descendants of Roman tax evaders and medieval knights donating to the church to cleanse their souls and their wallets. So buckle up. We're going to trace how humanity perfected the art of hiding ill-gotten gains, from ancient temples doubling as banks, to pirates smuggling gold, to modern CEOs doing the same thing with PowerPoint slides and fake invoices. By the end of this, you'll realize money laundering isn't some modern criminal quirk. It's civilization's favorite hobby. And hey, before we dive in, if you want more deep dives into how money built, broke, and bullshitted its way through history, hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't just history. It's financial crime class with way more sarcasm and slightly fewer ethics. Now, let's rewind to where it all began. Long before the first Swiss bank account, when the dirtiest money in the world came not from cocaine or crypto, but from tax evasion in ancient China. Our story kicks off in ancient China. Long before Wall Street, long before Panama Papers, and way before your favorite scam influencers started flexing Lambos on Instagram. Back then, merchants weren't even supposed to have that much money. The Han Dynasty had this cute little idea that traders were social parasites. Useful, but definitely not supposed to get rich. So what did those early hustlers do? They found loopholes. Big ones. Merchants started buying land under fake names, hiding profits in the names of servants, cousins, concubines. Hell, maybe even the family goat if it had a signature. They did it to dodge taxes and avoid the emperor's watchful eye, who hated when anyone besides him got rich. Sound familiar? Yeah. It's basically the ancient version of parking your cash in a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Same trick, different scrolls. And here's where it gets funnier. The Chinese government actually tried to stop it. They sent inspectors to track land ownership and wealth. But surprise, those inspectors usually bought off by the very people they were supposed to investigate. Classic. The fox wasn't guarding the hen house. The fox was billing the hen house for consulting fees. By the 2nd century BCE, the Chinese elite had turned wealth hiding into a national art form. They called it concealed property. But let's be real, it was money laundering with better calligraphy. Meanwhile, the state kept squeezing honest peasants for taxes while the rich coasted, smiling behind layers of fake ownership and shady middlemen. And that, my friends, is the foundation of every modern financial system. It was never about the money itself. It was about keeping control over who gets to keep it. When the government cracked down, merchants didn't quit. They just got smarter. They hid their silver, moved goods through third parties, and donated to temples that acted like ancient offshore vaults. Yeah, you heard that right. Temples. The priests were basically the first private bankers, laundering divine and dirty cash alike. Because apparently, money is the root of all evil. Unless it's blessed and untaxed. Rome, the empire that conquered half the world and then proceeded to launder half of it. See, the Romans didn't invent corruption, but they industrialized it. Bribes, tax evasion, offshore accounts, aka buried chests in Sicily, Rome had the full menu. Let's start with the tax farmers. These guys were like ancient Wall Street bros with togas. They'd pay the state up front for the right to collect taxes from a region, then go absolutely feral squeezing the locals for triple the amount. And when the Senate came knocking asking, hey, where's the money? These dudes had already laundered it through a labyrinth of fake partnerships, shell estates, and foreign accounts in places like Alexandria or Cyprus. That's right. Even 2,000 years ago, the rich were hiding their loot in safe jurisdictions. They didn't call it the Cayman Islands, they called it the provinces. The Roman elite loved moving cash through temples, trade ships, and foreign allies. Think of it like Venmo, but every transaction took 6 months and involved bribing a priest. One of my favorites, Marcus Crassus, Rome's richest man and a professional opportunist. This guy built his empire off literal fires. He'd show up at burning buildings, offer to buy them for cheap, and then use his own slaves to put out the flames. Talk about buying the dip. But when the Senate tried to investigate his fortune, surprise, most of it was hidden in foreign holdings and puppet companies. Crassus wasn't just rich, he was laundry rich. And just like today, corruption didn't exist without politics. Governors sent to rule provinces came back with pockets so fat, you'd think they'd looted Fort Knox. Their excuse? Gifts from grateful citizens. Translation, straight up extortion, scrubbed clean with paperwork and smiles. Rome even had laws against illicit enrichment, but, and here's the fun part, they were enforced by other rich guys doing the same thing. So yeah, imagine the SEC being run by hedge fund managers. Oh wait. The result, Rome looked clean on the outside. Marble, glory, order, but underneath, its economy was a swamp of kickbacks, fake accounts, and dirty money bouncing from one corrupt hand to another. And just like any good empire, it all started to rot from the inside out. Fast forward a few centuries. Rome is dead, Europe's on fire, and the church, oh the church, has become the biggest money laundering operation this side of heaven. Picture this. Medieval knights marching off to war with God's blessing, peasants starving, kings broke, and the church sitting on gold that could buy half the continent. How? Easy. Donations, indulgences, holy investments. Basically, divine branding slapped on dirty money. The rich had a problem. How do you justify a lifetime of corruption, war crimes, and tax dodging to the Almighty? Simple. You donate to the church. Boom! Your soul's clean, your name is pure, and your fortune is now locked up in a holy vault the state can't touch. It was money laundering with incense and choir music. You could raid a village on Monday, then wash your sins by funding a cathedral on Friday. Modern translation, rob a bank, then sponsor a charity gala. The church played along because it benefited everyone. They became the safest vault in the world, literally untouchable under divine immunity. Kings trusted them, criminals loved them, merchants needed them. Hell, even the Pope ran one of the first banking systems, moving funds through monasteries across borders like a medieval SWIFT network. One monastery in Venice opened like a money exchange for crusaders heading east. They'd deposit gold in Europe and get it back in the Holy Land. Sounds noble, right? Nope. They were skimming fat cuts off every transaction. The monks were basically in the foreign exchange business with robes and halos. Then came the Knights Templar, the original crypto bros of Christendom. They offered safekeeping for pilgrims' money and invented checks, early paper credit that let you withdraw gold anywhere along their network. Totally innovative. Also, totally abused. When the French king got jealous and broke, he accused them of heresy, translation, he wanted their cash, and wiped them out. Lesson learned, never hold dirty money for someone more powerful than you. By the 14th century, laundering through religion was an art form. It wasn't just about cleaning the gold, it was about cleansing reputation.
Money could buy salvation and prestige. Sound familiar? Yeah, same concept when billionaires donate to climate funds after polluting the planet. Different robes, same rinse cycle. By the time Europe crawled out of the Dark Ages, money laundering wasn't just a side hustle. It was the engine behind entire empires. The 16th to 18th centuries were the golden age of exploration, or more accurately, the golden age of exploitation. Spain, Portugal, England, the Dutch, they all had the same business model. Steal gold, sell slaves, smuggle goods, and then pretend it was trade. The irony is, these were Christian monarchies preaching morality while bankrolling genocides. You can't make this up. Let's start with the East India Companies, the OG corporate criminals. These private companies acted like governments with stock options. They looted India, monopolized trade routes, and cooked the books harder than Enron. How did they hide the blood money? through clever accounting, offshore colonies, and joint stock structures that made ownership so messy no one could tell where the loot came from. That's right, colonialism wasn't just about conquering land, it was about laundering empire profits through legal paperwork. And then you had the pirates, the freelance version of empire. These guys robbed Spanish galleons, sold the loot through respectable Caribbean merchants, and voila! Stolen gold turned into legitimate trade revenue. Port Royal, Jamaica, it wasn't just a pirate haven. It was the Wall Street of the high seas. You could literally walk in with bloodstained treasure and walk out with a deed to a sugar plantation. Meanwhile, the Atlantic slave trade made money laundering industrial. Merchants in Liverpool, Lisbon, and Amsterdam disguised profits from human trafficking under shipping expenses and colonial investments. The system was so efficient, even legitimate banks didn't ask questions because they were in on it. Then came the 18th century bankers, slick wigs, powdered faces, and pockets full of plunder. They used complex letters of credit and cross-border transfers to clean imperial cash. Every dirty coin passed through London or Amsterdam came out looking saintly. By the 1700s, money laundering wasn't just for criminals. It was the global economy. The entire world was a laundromat running on exploitation, paperwork, and polite denial. And just like that, the blueprint for modern financial crime was complete. You don't hide the crime. You legalize it. Because if your government, your church, and your bank are all doing the same thing, who's left to call it illegal? Welcome to the modern era, where the suits got sharper, the scams got smarter, and money laundering became a science. By the 19th century, industrialization was printing millionaires faster than the presses printing their fake accounting books. Factories, railways, colonial profits, all booming, and so were taxes. Naturally, the rich decided, nah, that's for peasants, and went back to their favorite ancient hobby, hiding money. Only this time, they had banks. Switzerland, that lovely mountain fortress of neutrality, figured out it could make a killing by not asking questions. Swiss banking secrecy became the Rolls-Royce of financial privacy, where mobsters, monarchs, and money launderers all held hands and sang in numbered accounts. They called it financial discretion. Everyone else called it legalized hush money. And while the bankers wore tuxedos, another breed of cleaner was rising from the streets, the mafia. When Prohibition hit America in the 1920s, booze went illegal, but business boomed. Gangsters like Al Capone were drowning in untraceable cash, and Uncle Sam wanted his cut. Capone's solution? Laundromats. Literal ones. He'd run small cash-based businesses to mix dirty bootlegging profits with clean income. And just like that, the term money laundering was born. The man turned soap and quarters into a tax shield. Innovation, baby. By the mid-20th century, money laundering wasn't the side operation. It was a corporate service. Banks looked the other way, politicians looked the other way, and the CIA, well, sometimes they just joined in. From Cold War black ops to sludge funds in Latin America, dirty money was suddenly a patriotic necessity. Can't fight communism without a few untraceable dollars, right? Then came globalization, the final boss level of financial disguise. Shell companies in Panama, trusts in the Cayman Islands. You can own 30 corporations and still technically own nothing. That's not freedom, that's accounting sorcery. And today, the same mechanics that clean pirate gold and Vatican donations are alive and thriving in luxury real estate, crypto, and consulting firms that exist only on paper. A Russian oligarch buys a London pet house through 5 shell companies. That's a Renaissance merchant buying land under his butler's name, just with better Wi-Fi. And the best part? Governments still act surprised. Every few years, there's a new leak. Panama Papers, Paradise Papers, Pandora Papers. It's like a whole Netflix trilogy of rich people's laundry. Everyone gasps, politicians pretend to be shocked, and nothing changes. Because you can't ban the system when the system is the laundromat. So what's the lesson here? Money laundering isn't a crime of greed. It's a crime of order. It's how power protects itself. From Chinese merchants to Roman governors to modern bankers, the trick's always been the same. Hide your wealth, look legitimate, and keep the peasants confused. And you're just supposed to clap for economic growth. So the next time a billionaire brags about financial innovation, remember it's probably just the same old wash cycle running on a shinier machine. Because from temples to tax havens, from gold coins to crypto wallets, one thing stayed constant for over 2,000 years. The rich don't clean their money because they're guilty. They clean it because it works. So yeah, civilizations rise, empires fall, currencies change, but the oldest business on earth? Still laundering, still thriving, still pretending to smell like soap. If you learned something new, or if you're just slightly horrified by how consistent human corruption is, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the money crimes that shaped history. Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. Every great empire eventually